Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to the full card breakdown, this time for UFC Qatar. We are across the other side of the world with 14 fights to talk about, all headlined by Arman Tsarukyan and Dan Hooker. What is a pretty fun main event. Also the co-main, Ian Garry, Bilal Muhammad. I am really looking forward to this fight and a lot of interesting matchups to dive into. As always, we're going to break down everything from a DraftKings and a betting perspective. If you want more content, check out CoolBet using code Gordo, and check out Establish the Run for my premium DraftKings content. Only 3 fight cards left of the year, so take advantage of it. Should be a good one. With that being said, though, like I said, 14 fights to talk about, so let's not waste any more time. Let's dive in. Let's do this. Get the fight night started with the 6-0 Marek Buljo versus the 6-1 Denzel Freeman, and what is a contender series fight. Neither guy has fought yet in the UFC. They're both making their debut, and these are guys who, we have a lot of questions to see about. Researching someone like Buljo, a horrible level of competition. He's dispatching of them very, very quickly, but I still have my questions about him. How does his cardio fare? How does he face adversity? When you're facing, garbage men and people who are working at Walmart, it's really tough to see how he's going to progress. He is a big dude, likes to get takedowns, and land ground and pound. So again, someone else was making his debut. Maybe he can have success, but I have seen more from Denzel Freeman. He's at least fought in LFA. He is able to go out there and beat some credible names. Stephen Asplin, we saw a fight on Contender Series there as well. So with the wrestling background of Freeman and the fact that I've seen him go 15, I've seen him go a bit longer there as well. I have to trust Freeman here, being the more experienced fighter with the better overall skills that I've seen more proven, and I have to pick him to win this fight. Now, would it surprise me if Buljo is just that good, takes him down early, grounds him out? Sure, that could definitely be a possibility, but I've seen a more proven skill set from Freeman, better cardio, and he's going to pick to win this one, although it is a pretty sloppy one. On the betting line, though, I don't know how much I want to bet on an early fight like this, let alone a fight that is minus 700 and it's at the distance, but with numbers like that, it is more a fight I want to target on DraftKings. We look at all these fighters, we look at this top-end range, seeing someone like a Freeman here at 8.6K and a Buljo at 7.6K have some interest towards me because this is a minus 700 fight to end inside the distance. There's a sloppy heavyweight fight, right? Something like Buljo, he's destroying his competition early. If just on the first round finish, if you ground and pound someone like Freeman at 7.6K, that could be a slate-breaking score right there. Conversely, again, Denzel Freeman is minus 135 to win inside the distance, only plus 225 to win in round one, which I think is the second best line on the slate. Third best behind Shamil Gaziev. But again, a very good thing to go out there and target at 8.6K. So I do think the winner will score well. I do side with Denzel Freeman having the more proven thing. I think he's got the better striking optics on the feet, the better proven cardio. I'm going to pick him to win, but a sloppy fight that I do have interest in on DraftKings. Then we have the 10-0 Nuriel Aliev versus the 12-1 Shamrock. And when Shamrock was made his debut here, I kind of thought it was someone on Twitter trolling because Shamrock is pretty active on the social media side of things. But he is someone who is making his debut here, getting a tough matchup against, a home region fighter there, Nuriel Aliev, who does want to go out there and take you down and control you. He is very good at that top control pressure. He is able to lay and pray, lay in some good takedowns, just be a solid top pressure on top, and someone who is able to win fights. Joe Solecki, Alves, those are some decent wins to have in his record, and someone who has shown to be pretty credible. Maybe a little bit boring at time, but when you're landing takedowns at, the accuracy he is, when you're having as much success, I don't blame him for not doing that more often. Shamrock on the regional scene is someone who, maybe isn't as impressive as other debuting fighters on this card, but someone who does have a pretty slick ground game, someone who can throw up submission from bottom position, someone who has some credible striking on the feet, but I don't like his physicality too much. He himself doesn't have the best takedown entries of his own right. I just don't see him out wrestling someone like Nuriel Aliev, who will bring a wrestling pace to him. Can Shamrock throw up a submission off his back? Potentially, but more times than not, Aliev is going to fight through it. And I think he's fought more proven guys like a Solecki, like an Alves. And I think Aliev can go out there, land the takedowns, and just win minutes in what could be a pretty slow-paced fight. Again, he'll have to fend on some takedown attempts. Shamrock is pretty crafty down there, but I am going to pick Nuriel Aliev to land that top control, to win minutes here, and just establish pressure as the fight goes on, maybe towards a later stoppage or a decision win, despite it not being the most, entertaining one. And because of that, we have a minus 75 favorite. He is minus 155 to go the distance. He's expected to win by decision. And that's going to translate towards a weird score on DraftKings, right? He is going to be more expensive. And, at 9.2K, when you're putting up 78 and 92 in your only true UFC appearances, sure, you can land takedowns. You can have 8 minutes and 10 minutes of control. But if you're not landing as much strikes, if you're not going to be a up and down type wrestler, you're not going to go out there and score that well. So I don't have the most interest of Aliev at 9.2K. I think he has some validity because he has a grappling path to victory, but I'd rather play some other guys that we'll talk about later. Then you look at someone like Shamrock, he's more of a punt play. I think he's winning if he's throwing up submissions off his back, which could score well. I just don't think it happens too often. So not my favorite fight. Did pick Aliev to get it done, though. Then we have the 24-8 Ismail Naurdiev versus the 8-2 Ryan Loder. And this is a tough one for me because I've been historically a bit lower on Naurdiev and maybe a bit higher than I should have been on someone like Ryan Loder. But it's a pretty easy one to break down in terms of the way that Ryan Loder is a very solid, blast double wrestler, very good NCAA background, as someone who wants to go out there and take you down and dominate you early, and someone who, when there's any adversity on the feet, whether it's being hit at all, whether it's be, extended affairs, he's someone who is just so one-dimensional his approach. He may struggle down the stretch. Ismail Naurdiev is on a second stint here in the UFC, and someone who, can fight through adversity, someone who can be taken out. We've seen that, but is someone who I've seen, have success on the feet, someone who can be a pretty good striker. I have seen him broken down at wilt, and, I bet big on Jungyeon Park last time, and Park was able to dismantle him over the stretch. But Naurdiev looked a bit better in that spot here, and I think what it's going to come down to is just, can Ryan Loder sustain that wrestling pace for 15 minutes? And I'm not too sure he can. He does have pretty solid wrestling. I do like it, but it is sitting at 14% accuracy. And we have seen that not only does he slow down, but when he's hit at all, his chin's not there. He doesn't always have the best jiu-jitsu or top control take over, and he's just so one-dimensional in his approach. I think if it's anything other than Ryan Loder from top position, Naurdiev's going to hit harder. Naurdiev can scramble better. And although Naurdiev has quit, I think he has enough in him to outland him or outlast him in this spot here. So I'm going to pick Ismail Naurdiev, which is weird because I've been a Loder guy historically, but there is definitely a path for Loder to land takedowns and establish top control as the fight goes on. He would just need a perfect performance in doing so. It is a close line. I do expect that. I mean, both fighters are people that, people don't want to trust too much. If anything, I look towards this Naurdiev KO line, plus 320 on some books. Even the finish only for Naurdiev is a better price than I expected, minus 145. I can't see Loder getting a finish too often. Sure, maybe he can break Naurdiev. Naurdiev's been broken before, but if anything, I think it's Naurdiev landing that big shot. On DraftKings, Naurdiev 8.5K. Again, I'd rather just play Denzel Freeman. Naurdiev has not scored the best. 90 points in his win, 99 in a decision. He's only one decision, so maybe that knockout can turn the tide. So I guess maybe there's some validity at 8.5K. It just doesn't rate out as well as the fighters around him, like the Freemans and the Gaziev and Ulanbekovs of the world. Loder, if he does win, someone I do want to target because it's a wrestling path to victory. 110 against Valentin. He would have scored a pretty good against. I don't think he's winning without takedowns or top control, which you can get a bunch of here. So it's kind of a fight that's going to be a secondary play from both sides. I did lean towards Naurdiev, but a lower level fight in my opinion. And then we have the 12-2 Beksat Almakhan versus the 6-1 Alexander Topuria, and not only the closest fight on the card, but one of my favorite ones. This is a really good matchup between two fighters who, are still finding their footing and who I'm excited to see what they can produce. Topuria, you see it in the name, he's the brother there. He is a very powerful striker and someone who kind of has that same form as someone like Ilya up top there. He is able to not only strike with very good boxing and counter striking there, but can grapple. We've seen that before. Unlike his brother, though, we have seen him, tire out down the stretch, finish in fights before, and someone who, although he looked okay and is one win against Colby Thickness, we haven't really seen the most from. Beksat Almakhan fought very, very close against Almabayev, actually knocked him down, and then shocked me by knocking out a very, very tough and durable Brad Appley in a fight where he was just massive. He is a very, very aggressive striker. Tons of power in his hands, very good counter striking, and a very good aggressive pace towards it there as well. I do think there are times where he can, be stalled out in his back. If Village Poor wants to land takedowns, have some success there, he can. But, Topuria is going to want to go out there and counterbox and strike. And I think in doing so, although Topuria is going to be the prettier striker of the two, Almakhan's going to hit hard. I think he's going to have the ability to, land more volume, win more minutes. And I think Almakhan can even mix in takedowns of his own right. So I've seen more from Almakhan. I've seen him face better level of competition. And if he's going to rate up to be the dog, to which he is right now, sitting at, plus 110 in some markets, I'm going to take a dog shot in what I think is a truly close fight. Can Topuria go out there, land takedowns, have success? Of course. But Almakhan I've seen a bit more from. And I do think Almakhan has true power, more power than Topuria has ever fought before. And a guy who can definitely win minutes against someone Topuria who's slower pace. So I'm going to take the dog shot on Almakhan. When it comes to DraftKings, though, again, without a finish, it's tough to project this one too well. The fight is minus 200 inside the distance. Maybe that works out okay, but still not my favorite one from a DraftKings perspective, unless there's a knockout, right? Almakhan did score a knockout 1-3 last time. Fine. Topuria didn't. He had a 3-round decision. I scored 65 without either a knockout from Almakhan or a high wrestling pace from Topuria. I don't know how well it rates out. So I think it's kind of Almakhan or pass for me because I picked him to win. But again, not my favorite fight in this league. And then we have this one, 7-0 Yakhyaev versus the 11-3 Rafael Cerqueira. Not much needs to be said about this one. Yakhyaev was one of my favorite prospects on Dana White Contender Series. Very, very aggressive with that striking, very good knockout, but a primary grappler in my opinion who has good takedowns, solid submissions, very well-rounded Russian prospect who's still young and improving. And I think this guy's going to be a problem. And he is getting a literal human sacrifice in front of him in Rafael Cerqueira, not only who was knocked out in the first minute of his first UFC fights, but even if I went to the decision, was giving up, horrible ground positions that Yakhyaev should absolutely be able to dominate on. Julius Walker, great fighter, great heart, love him, but couldn't finish a sandwich. And I think Yakhyaev's just going to dismantle Cerqueira early. No hot take. Big favorite for a reason. Actually, minus 1,600, minus 1,800 in some spots. Yakhyaev should absolutely dismantle him and roll him here. Minus 1,000 wins inside the distance. Yakhyaev is minus 800 to win inside the distance. Even to pick him win by round one, he's almost minus 200 to win in round one. He should absolutely dismantle him, and there might be even some value on that round one prop. Cerqueira shells up and absorbs damage. He's going to get mauled. However, he's 9.8K, so there are some issues with that. It's just Cerqueira's given up first round win bonuses. That is definitely on the table. If you can afford Yakhyaev, I think he has the highest floor, and I think I think he should get a first round finish here. So I'm not usually really bullish on these 9.8K guys. I mean, Tsarukyan didn't deliver last week, but Yakhyaev has a true ceiling to get that. It's just, if this is a knockout in 1 minute and 5 seconds, he doesn't realize it. So everything needs to fall your way. I want Yakhyaev. He's not a must play, but definitely if I can afford him, I will get up to him. And then we have the 25-9 Alex Perez versus the 22-3 Asu Almabayev. Another pretty fun fight. Alex Perez, has had his injury losses and concerns, so happy to see him back inside the octagon. I think it's a good test for Asu Almabayev. Alex Perez is someone who has been at the top, who has fight for a belt, is a pretty good scrambler, counter striker there as well, pretty good takedown defense, and someone who, is pretty well rounded in a lot of these spots, but can be bullied inside there. Pantoja walked him down, dismantled him. Figueiredo had a nice show against her as well, and we've seen him, tap out, finish, and injured in a lot of these spots. So as the fighter ages, it's really tough to see where he is at this point of his career. And he faces a pretty, scrappy guy here in Asu Almabayev who is going to test that ground game, right? Alex Perez, 77% takedown defense, that should be noted, but 4.66 takedown average for someone like Almabayev coming off a nice win over someone like Ochoa. I think this is a really tall test. On the feet, I do think Perez is probably the prettier striker. He got solid leg kicks. He has fought the better level of competition, and the takedown defense is there. But past that, Almabayev, I think, is more aggressive towards it. I think he's going to spam chain takedowns. I think from top control, he can threaten Perez the same way people have, made him tap, made him work before, right? Pantoja bullied him through that takedown game. I think the aggression of Almabayev is going to lead opportunities, and I think he's just going to win in the ground exchanges. So with the price tag it is now, I don't know if I'm playing anything straight on Almabayev here, but because Perez could land leg kicks, he can win minutes in the striking, and could counter wrestle Almabayev towards a victory. But Almabayev should win. He should have the grappling on his side to get it done. Because of that, at 8.7K, not a bad play. His last performance, again, only 98, but 7 takedowns, 105, 118, 105. He has put up very good scores with his takedown approaches, and I think the pace he's going to bring is going to land takedowns someone like Alex Perez. Perez has given up the 92, the 100, 113 points before. That is definitely on the table, so I don't mind him because of his pace, because of his aggression, at an 8.7K price tag. But again, not a must play. I think there are some really solid options this mid-range, and Almabayev is certainly one of them, but maybe more of a secondary play compared to the other big names. Picking Almabayev should be a fun fight. Then we have the 23-6-1 Nicholas Dalby versus the 22-2 Saigid Izagakhmaev. And what is a fun name to say, tough one to type out, would get you a lot of Scrabble points. However, he is making his debut here in his home region as someone who does look to be, pretty decent. We know who Nicholas Dalby is. He is one of those grinders, right? Very, very good cardio, very good resiliency. He's always going to be in the fight, always going to be pushing forwards, but maybe not the best, technically. We've seen him dismantled on the mat. We just saw him knocked out for the first time. Even though it was the first time he was knocked out, we've seen him dropped. We've seen him get a couple no contests before there as well. At 41 years old, we certainly have our question marks about Nicholas Dalby in terms of what he's going to bring, but it's going to be one of those guys who you have to kill or destroy, or else in that third round, he's going to go forward and look to hurt you, right? And getting that step up in competition for Izagakhmaev, I do think we have our, questions to be answered. I think Nicholas Dalby could definitely cause some concerns if he's still there in round 3. But I like the striking, I like the physicality, and I really do like what I've seen from Izagakhmaev. He's a big, powerful dude, and I do think he's able to land those shots. He's Nicholas Dalby, who, absorbs these strikes, who just knocked out cold last time. I do think the age is getting up there for Dalby, the damage is accruing, and it's a spot for Izagakhmaev to have some success being the debuting fighter. Now, again, the longer this fight goes, Dalby can win minutes, he can win rounds, and maybe Saigid doesn't have the opportunity to show that same resiliency that Nicholas Dalby has. But on face value, I have to lean toward Izagakhmaev to get this one done. The minus 230 price tag isn't as good. Maybe this plus 300, plus 265 KO line on Izagakhmaev may be it. If that chin of the 41-year-old in Dalby is cracking at this point of his career, I don't mind that. However, on DraftKings, he's sitting there 9.3K as someone who is, has a pretty tough guy in front of him. Dalby, yes, gave up that knockout last time, gave up 102 points, 100 before that. But, aside from those early losses, he's not giving up many points, right? 79 in decision win. You have to really damage this guy to get him out of there. So Izagakhmaev is going to be a round 1 KO or bust type of fighter. If he does not get that first round finish, I think Tsarukyan scores him. Of course, Yakhyaev does. Aliev going to have takedown control. He is a super boomer bust guy up top, and therefore I'll play him in these tournaments, but doesn't have that same floor. He's definitely someone who could put up an 80-point decision win, could lose in a third round effort, right? So not as certain about him. Not my favorite play on DraftKings. And then Dalby is more of that punt play down low. If you think he has a better chance in line of tails, maybe. But boomer bust prospect up top, did pick him to win. Give me Izagakhmaev. And then the 15-3 Bogdan Grad versus the 11-0 Luke Riley. Actually, I think I changed my mind from the Topuria Almakhan one. This is the fight I'm most looking forward to. This one should be a fun one. Bogdan Grad has been in a lot of wars. He is a warrior and someone who will go forward and look to, take your head off. He's very aggressive, solid heart, pretty well rounded. He's able to mix in, dig deep, get those takedowns, solid ground and pound, and absorb a lot of damage. We saw that against Michael Aswell in the Contender Series. We saw him in a war against Alexander. Fun fighter to watch. And he faces Luke Riley. And if you don't know who Luke Riley is, he is one of those scousers, Patty's friend, someone who you can't really understand what he's saying too much, but a fun fighter. Doing tape on this guy, watching his fights, entertaining, like say the least. Like they're just absolute wars, absolute scraps over there. And I'm excited to see this guy fight in the UFC. Yes, he takes a lot of damage. That's maybe a concern, but he's got heart. He's got grit. He's still young and he's still improving. I still think he's someone who can definitely rattle off some wins in the UFC. Now, he does have a decent submission game on the map, but I have seen him taken down and controlled. It's on the feet where I think he's pretty good. Yes, he'll eat a couple to give a couple, but he's got solid combinations. He's got solid pressure. When he smells blood in the water, he has the opportunity to put your lights out. Very, very aggressive. I like what I see from the guy. And taking out someone like Bogdan Grad, I think he might have to dig deep, because if you do not kill Bogdan Grad like, a Tom Nolan did, you're going to have to really fight wars with Bogdan Grad, because he is going to look mixing takedowns. He's going to scrap on the feet. He is pretty durable. He's able to hit a couple shots. So, I think it's a spot where, if Bogdan Grad wants to mix in takedowns, he has a path to success. But the longer the fight goes, the more success there is. Give me Luke Riley to, land the bigger shots, to maybe even have more finishing upside and knock out someone like Bogdan Grad, and look to, put his name on the map. And this is a big name to go out here, come to sign the UFC. I think he's got a solid future ahead of him. And I do think he's able to hurt Grad and find the kill shot the same way, and Alexander wasn't able to. So give me Luke Riley to get this one done. Big favorite. So no hot take there. If anything, I kind of like the finish only for Riley. Oh, never mind. They're keen to it. I think if Grad wins, it's probably a decision. So maybe decision only plus 95 could have some opportunities. Maybe the KO line on someone like Riley is something I'll play. Maybe. But another spot I like here is also on DraftKings. He is 9.1K, which is a bit tougher, but I think Grad's going to bring a pace. And I think although Riley has some bust risk towards him because he could be stuck on his back, if there's a finish, he has power equity in his shots, and then he can hit hard, and then get that finish here. And someone who I don't mind sprinkling in a tournament is 9.1K. If Izagakhmaev is able to go out there and, not get that first round finish, if Aliev just lays in praise and scores 90 points, Riley has a path. So we'll talk about Orolbai later. He is someone I want to target, but I don't mind Riley as a pivot off of him at 9.1K. And Grad as a punt play, don't mind him. 7.1K. If he wins, he needs to land takedowns. I think he has a path. I think he can win more than the line of tails. I think he's a solid underdog down low as well. I like this fight. Picked Riley, but should be an entertaining one to say the least. And then making his UFC return, we have the 34-5 Kyoji Horiguchi versus the 17-2 Tagir Ulanbekov. Another really interesting matchup. And, I'm happy to see Horiguchi back here, has kind of a cult legend over there at Bellator, there in Risen, and even a guy who's fought in the UFC in the past against him and had a really good stint there as well. Like, Horiguchi is an absolute legend. I love his style. I love his aggression. Very good karate striking there as well. Very good submission game if he gets to it. But someone who maybe is a bit undersized, someone who's definitely going to have to use that in this matchup here. I know I like Horiguchi, and I do think if this fight's on the feet, he's the better striker. I do think he can entangle in some good exchanges, some good scrambles, and get someone like Ulanbekov. But the more I come to it, I see Ulanbekov as someone who's kind of a size bully, who can land takedowns, and is solid enough of a grappler to stay safe. Sure, if he doesn't shoot takedowns, it's a striking affair. I think I'd favor Horiguchi outright. But I do think Ulanbekov is able to land takedowns. He is a big guy. We have seen Horiguchi taken down and controlled before. 55% takedown defense, and that was before he is the age he is now. So give me Ulanbekov to land takedowns, utilize his size. But if Horiguchi keeps this upright, if he forces scrambles, if he strikes on the feet, I like his aggression. Ulanbekov look kind of like a deer in the headlights on the feet there. And Horiguchi definitely has a chance to win. Just gun to my head, I'd have to pick Ulanbekov. Minus 195 to win, minus 250 over the distance. I'm not seeing it any other way in the book. Very square pick, I guess, from my side of things there, too. On DraftKings, Ulanbekov's interesting because I do think, like I said, he needs those takedowns, going to use that size to his advantage. He didn't score that well last time against Maxim, but Maxim was forcing the wrestling against him. It's just one of those ceilings. If he doesn't get that finish, the 120, 110, or 100 points, sorry, if he gets a decision win, 86, 93, 85. And that comes with 5 takedowns, 4 takedowns, 3 takedowns, right? So, the ceiling's there. He could do it, but I'd much rather play the Freeman we talked about, the Naurdiev who was knocked out upside, the Almabayev, who I think is a clear path. Ulanbekov kind of being lost in there. And conversely, I think Horiguchi can force scrambles. It's been a while since I've been in the UFC, but in his decision, his pace allowed him to score 120, 92. 62 is not that pretty, but when he's able to scramble, he's able to utilize the striking. I think he can have success and win more than the line of tail. I don't mind mixing in Horiguchi at 7.6. I kind of think it's more dogger past here. However, I did pick Ulanbekov to win. And then I'm filming this right after they announced a replacement. So it is no longer Sergey Spivak. It is now Waldo Cortes-Acosta against Shamil Gaziev. And just breaking this one down quickly without any, odds or DraftKings lines. I like Waldo Cortes-Acosta off the first side of things. Shamil Gaziev is not someone who I'm the biggest fan of. I think he can slow down. I think although he's a big body and could land takedowns and top control against Waldo Cortes-Acosta, I think he's going to be slower. I think he could dismantle. Then, if you're not landing takedowns against Rosenstrike, Waldo Cortes-Acosta is more, athletic, is more fluid, can move side to side, utilize his jab. I think he's a better striker. So give me, Waldo Cortes-Acosta, although it's on short notice, although he may not have an eyeball after that weird stunt that happened. I do have to pick him to win. I do think he's rich on the outside, outstrikes Gaziev, although there is, of course, that fear of the Gaziev takedown and top control. When it comes to DraftKings, I'm not the biggest Waldo Cortes-Acosta guy on DraftKings. Sure, he proved me wrong last time, but, I don't know where he's going to slot in. I don't even know where the odds are. I think he might even be a favorite here, and if that's the case, not the best historical grappler or scorer, on DraftKings. And Gaziev more so maybe be the side if he's able to get that takedown, he's able to have top control, if he's able to, land the ground a pound and get a finish there. But I think that path is slim. Give me Waldo to win, utilizing strike from the outside, just maybe not the one that scores the best on DraftKings. So not my favorite spot there, but I'll take the short notice guy to get this one done. And then the 24-9 Jack Hermansson, 14-2 on My Titty Back, Mick Tibek, Orolbai. Shout out to DFS by the numbers, Monk MMA, and Wheezy. Those shows you do on Wednesday, the return of My Titty Back, Orolbai. Something we miss, something we miss. But Orolbai is someone who is going in there and fighting pretty good level of competition in absolute wars and some great fights. Great Kimura last time against Musayev. And a guy who's definitely, making his way up the rankings. Hermansson is someone who's maybe a bit older, coming off of a devastating knockout loss, like a brutal knockout loss last time. And now it's weird because Orolbai's coming up from 155. Hermansson is dropping down at 170. What is this fight going to look like? I'm not sure. Hermansson's chin may be more in danger, but he is going to have a huge size advantage over someone like Orolbai. It's a tough fight. I do think Orolbai is going to have the aggression. I think he can land takedowns. I think he's going to hit harder on the feet. But Hermansson has minute winning equity. I think he's got better range. Orolbai is just eating shots with his face. And I think if Hermansson just sticks and moves from the outside, he can win this fight. That is on the table. Orolbai is going to, be the aggressor, look to mix in takedowns. He's very sticky once he gets in close, and he hits hard. And Hermansson's chin is definitely be even more in danger at the lower weight class. So give me Orolbai to win in what is an interesting matchup that Hermansson does have a path, but I have to pick Orolbai. The line kind of reflects that. Minus 245, I think is pretty funny for someone coming up in weight against someone coming down in weight. However, I have to agree with it. Orolbai by knockout plus 240. That could be a look too, but it's on DraftKings, right? Orolbai has been a fantastic score. 115, 108, 123. Those are some really good scores and wins. And you're looking at the way Hermansson's been losing. It's typically by those knockouts, right? Hermansson last time was just absolutely murdered. Opponent scored 107, 84 to, let's say, 93 to Strong Strickland over 5 rounds, sure. 92 to Jared Cannonier. When he's being knocked out, 107, 84, 92. Sure, that's not great. But then you look at the scores that Orolbai's putting up. That's coming with takedowns. 7, 5, 2, 3. He's going to shoot takedowns. He's going to look to control time. He is a phenomenal scorer, so I don't mind him at 9K. I think he's one of my favorite options up top. I did mention Luke Riley is a solid pivot off of him directly, but I do like Orolbai. I do think he wins this fight, and I do think even if it's by decision, it's going to come with takedowns. It's going to come with this pressure, and it's hard to see a fight that Orolbai's in. That's not a war. That's not an aggressive style, so give me him to win. And what is a close one? And then the 20-8 Volkan Oezdemir versus the 17-5-1 Alonzo Menifield. Another really tough one to break down because both these fighters are pretty inconsistent. With Oezdemir, at least you know we're going to get. This guy's a very powerful striker who can hit very hard. It was off of some very solid knockout wins right there as well. But, he has been on a bit of a tougher streak, finished by Krylov, Yuri Prohashka, like all these big names out there as well. Even Alberg beat him last time too. He's facing these top guys, and when he gets that step down in competition, the Bogdan Guskovs of the world, all these guys, he's able to dismantle them, and we know he has power, right? In this match, it's a bit different because Menifield is so inconsistent. We don't know what he brings. He was in a boring one against C, and an entertaining one against Walker, knocked out by Mirzakhanov, Alberg. Sometimes he's going out there looking really good, landing takedowns, having top control, being a good counter striker. Other times he's just bull rushing in, getting hit, being finished. I think, the more accurate striker is Oezdemir. He can definitely find that off switch, but maybe the more athletic guy is Menifield. So What I'm trying to say is I'm picking Oezdemir to win. I think he has the better striking, and I think it's going to be a primary striking affair. He's able to lay on the counter shot, has more finish equity to it too. But if Menifield fights the best of his ability, maybe mixing takedowns, fights at a higher pace, able to win minutes, Menifield can win. He has all those tools. He just doesn't always have it, upstairs to win it all at the best of his ability. The guy doesn't fight smart, if I'm being honest. So I think Menifield can win. I just can't trust him to do so. And in a fight that I predict to play on the feet, I have to pick Oezdemir to win. Give me Volkan Oezdemir, large favorite. Maybe the line's a bit wide if you want to play some Menifield, but not my favorite spot there. Again, another fight that is extremely boom or bust. If Oezdemir is winning by knockout, sure, viable. 125 against Walker, 120 against Guskov, 122 against Latifi, 120, 127. In his finish wins, must play. But if this fight gets extended, he's not really doing great, and he doesn't have the grappling or the pace to put up a good score. We just saw Alonso last time. He put up 43 points in a win. That's not good. In decision losses to William Knight scored 79 points in a slow-paced affair. Devin Clark scored 86. So, if this is a knockout, sure, Oezdemir is almost a must-play due to his upside, and someone who will mix in tournaments. But if it's not a first-round finish, if it's not a fight at a high enough pace, it's not going to score well enough to hit the optimal lineup. So definitely some concerns about it. I did pick Oezdemir. I'm okay to punt down low with Menifield if we have no other options as well, because I do think it's a better path to win. I'm picking Oezdemir, and I'll probably have more of him due to his knockout equity. And we have the 24-4 Bilal Muhammad versus the 16-1 Ian Machado. Garry, fun fight. Surprises to come main event. It could very easily headline, especially coming off the belt that Muhammad had, and Ian Garry having a main event against Cortes, but it'll be interesting to see this one play out. Now, Bilal Muhammad is on that run. I do think, sure, if he goes out there and goes back to the Muhammad of old, of spamming takedowns, getting in close, and just wrestling people's hearts out, sure, he could have some success. But I think this is Ian Garry's fight to lose. Ian Garry's going to have the size here. He's going to have the better striking outside. And as long as he just doesn't give up multiple takedowns, I think he's probably the better grappler than someone like Bilal Muhammad. It just is his wrestling on point. From range, there's no question. Ian Machado Garry's the better striker. He has more weapons behind it. He's the better minute winner. And I'm going to pick Ian Machado Garry to win. But again, if Bilal Muhammad does the Bilal Muhammad of old and just spams takedowns, goes forward, utilizes his pace, utilizes his grappling, I think he can win. I think he can win optics with it. I just don't think he does enough damage. I don't think he fights the best of his ability. I think he's not very smart sometimes too. And I think Ian Garry should land the better strikes, keep this one at range, utilize his size, and they should win this fight. So I'm intrigued to see it play out, but I have to pick Ian Machado Garry to win this fight here. And the line kind of reflects that. I'm surprised to see him that this big of a favorite. I thought, the grappling pedigree and the fact that he was a title holder could bring him some credit here at Bilal Muhammad, but he has been historically undervalued. That's fine. I think the way you play this one, though, is I can't get to Ian Garry that much. I don't think he knocks him out. And, in decisions, he scored 70, 60, 85, 95. That's just not great. If anything, I think it's dog or pass. Because if Bilal Muhammad's winning, it's takedowns. It's him, landing 5 takedowns against Lucas, scoring 108, 7 against Stephen Thompson, scoring 132. That's an ideal world. It's him, getting a takedown. Sure, Ian Garry might get back up. You take it right down again. He scored very, very well in those performances. That Leon Edwards won, sure, 5 rounds, but I think it's kind of dog or pass from DraftKings, although I am picking Ian Garry to win, and that kind of takes away some value from Bilal. So give me Garry to win. Interesting fight. I just don't know if I can trust Bilal Muhammad at this point in his career, and the size may be too big for Ian Garry. And then on to the main event, the 22-3 Arman Tsarukyan and the 24-12 Dan Hooker. Fun fight. It's just, man, I love Dan Hooker. I love cheering for him. He's an absolute dog. I'd be shocked if he's able to beat Arman Tsarukyan there. I'll say it off the rip. He is a solid counter grappler. He's got very good size. Someone who can, definitely fight through it. He's an absolute dog. But, still someone who's able to be taken down. Sure, 78% takedown defense. That's all for people, sprawling and brawling against him. He's been taken down and just dismantled on the mat a few times. And, sure, maybe Arman Tsarukyan can't break his arm or put him in a Kimura the same way that Almakhan did round 1. But, Tsarukyan is surviving against big fighters like a Joel Alvarez. He's surviving the guillotine for Oliveira. What does Dan Hooker offer that those fighters don't? I'm not too sure. I think Tsarukyan got good cardio. I think he's going to spam takedowns, and he's able to get it against someone, Dan Hooker, who can be stuck on his back more times than not. So I'm cheering for Dan Hooker. I really hope he wins. I just think Arman Tsarukyan is going to spam takedowns, be soft from top control, and look to threaten to finish. And even on the feet, although Dan Hooker has more weapons, Arman's no slouch up there as well. So give me Arman Tsarukyan to win. No hot take. Big favorite. Minus 500 some book. Minus 600 and some. What's his sub line? Plus 325 or sub. I'm cheering for Hooker. It's just really hard for me to see him be able to sustain or fight through the ground attack that Arman's going to have. So I have to pick Arman Tsarukyan. And at 9.5K, aside from Yakhyaev, who is, has just a bomb in front of him, Tsarukyan's my favorite play in the slate. Takedown upside. Sure, only 85 against Oliveira, but he's got 5 rounds to work here. He scored 103, 124, scored 7 takedowns against Demir, scored 99, and I get 2 more rounds to work. Dismantled the guy in Joel Alvarez, who I think is, kind of a similar fight to Dan Hooker, scored 117. I love the ceiling, love the grappling pace. Got the 4th best takedown average attempted, and where is he at here? Okay, maybe the 4th best takedowns landed metric here as well, so maybe there's some better plays there, but 5 rounds to work. A fighter in front of him who's been taken down, given up points before. In his last 5 losses in the UFC, he's given up 110, 101, 107, 112, 109. Like, the high scores are going against him there, so I'll take Arman Tsarukyan. I'm sure for Dan Hooker, I just think Arman may be too much at this point of his career. Give me Arman to win. However, that is going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. And a quick Q&A through my quick picks. We're taking Arman Tsarukyan, Ian Machado, Garry, Volkan Oezdemir, Menifield, Orolbai. That's actually Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Don't know what that's going to be in that spot there. Tagir Ulanbekov, Luke Riley, Saigid Izagakhmaev, Almabayev, Abdul Yakhyaev, Beksat Almakhan, Ismail Naurdiev, Nurolo Aliev, and Denzel Freeman. Only one underdog, and that's Beksat Almakhan. So maybe we'll change. I actually don't know what Waldo's going to be, but it's a spot that I do like those breakdowns there. Don't mind it. On a DraftKings front, let's go over to the solver here. It's going to be a tough one to build because you have Yakhyaev up top. I want Yakhyaev, I want Tsarukyan, and that leaves me 7.7. Sure, you can build that way too if you're, paying down low for, a Bilal Muhammad in punt play. If you're taking the risk on a Horiguchi or a Loder, you can build these kind of ways. But more times than not, you'll probably get off of Yakhyaev to Arman Tsarukyan and play more in this mid-range. When it comes to the fighters up top, I like, again, Yakhyaev, Tsarukyan are going to stand out league of their own. Then you got the round winner bus guys, the Izagakhmaev, the Oezdemirs, the Naurdievs. They have their GP potential. My favorite of the bunch is probably going to be Menifield Orolbai. I do really like Almabayev and his takedown approach, and then Denzel Freeman, which leaves me 7.1. I also don't mind wherever, if that's the case, I don't mind Loder, don't mind Horiguchi, don't mind the GPP upside of Buljo. But if I'm playing anybody down low, it's maybe me hoping that, Bogdan Grad can land some takedowns and have some success there. Maybe Izagakhmaev's not ready for the pace that Dalby's able to bring. You do have to punt there as well, so it's hard to fit them all in. If anything, maybe I'm pivoting off of Freeman, taking the round one upside on someone like Buljo that we haven't seen anything for, and therefore we can build a little bit more of that. We can get our, maybe we trust the takedown upside of Bilal. We get a Loder Horiguchi. A lot of fun ways to play. If I can get up to Yakhyaev, I will. If not, Tsarukyan's probably my highest owned fighter. Very fun slate to build with, 14 fights to look into. Any more questions, leave them in the comment section down below. When it comes to betting, I haven't locked anything in yet, which seems to be a trend with these videos. So I have to see. But maybe, some KO props and the guys I mentioned, Izagakhmaev, Luke Riley, Menifield Orolbai. We'll have to see. Any questions? We'll have to find out, though. My full set of bets on Twitter, @GamblesGordo. Be sure to check that out. However, that is going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Any more questions, concerns, leave in the comment section down below. We have 3 fight cards left to go, so be sure to hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, show some love. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I wish you all the best of luck in all your drafting and betting endeavors, guys. Let's make some money.